I'm from Wood River High School, and this is my proposition Constructive. For a brief off-time roadmap, I will start by supporting my own case. Then, if I have time, I will move on to attack my opponent's. If I do not have time for this, I will attack her case in my next speech. Now I will begin my time. I will start by supporting my case. My opponent attempted to refute my contention 1, subpoint A, by saying that it is a weak point, but she does not, however, support this argument by saying why she thinks it is a weak point. I would like to ask my opponent for clarification on this specifically. Since she provided no support for her argument, this point still stands. Next, my opponent tried to argue against my contention 1, subpoint B, by saying that having the parent in prison is beneficial for the child because they could abuse and wrongfully teach the child. However, the only situation in which putting the parent in prison would be beneficial to the child is if the parent is a serious child abuser, which is a fairly rare felony since only 12% of prisoners are convicted for child abuse. Like I said previously, losing a parent to prisons have many disadvantages for a child. Since she did not attack this point successfully, it is still valid for this round. Next, in response to my opponent's argument against my contention 2, subpoint A, she said that building prisons will solve the issue of prisoners' poor mental health. However, when we build more prisons, we will have no trouble filling them up to be just as crowded as the previous prisons. Since U.S. prisons have become private corporations, the people in charge of them are no longer concerned with the well-being of people. They are only concerned with money. So they purposely convict a larger amount of people so that they can get more money out of the system. Therefore, there will always be a problem with overcrowding, no matter how many new prisons are made. Since my opponent did not successfully attack this point, it also still stands. Moving on to my opponent's attack on my contention 2, subpoint B, she said that gangs within prisons are a positive thing because they bring prisoners together and make them feel like a family. Although gangs may give prisoners a sense of camaraderie, I must remind my opponent that gangs are extremely illegal. Gangs are most definitely not a good thing for prisoners because they involve them in more criminal activity, which opposes the basic purpose of prisons. This only supports my case further because it proves that prisons are not accomplishing their purpose, so they must be abolished. Next, in an attempt to attack my contention 3, my opponent stated that crime has a higher cost than the prison system. However, when we compare the statistics regarding the cost of crime that she provided with the statistics regarding the cost of prisons, it is evident to see that $63.4 billion, the cost of prisons annually, is incredibly more than $5.5 billion, the cost of crime annually. Since the cost of prisons outweigh the cost of crime, this point remains legitimate in this round. And lastly, to rebut my fourth contention, my opponent stated that prisons can save society $3.21 billion. Like I just said, the cost of prisons annually is $63.4 billion. This outweighs the amount of money that prisons can apparently save society. Because of this, my fourth contention still stands. Since I have proven that my opponent did not successfully attack any of my arguments, all of them are still valid for debate. Moving on to my opponent's case, I will now attack her arguments. In her first point, she stated that prisons are good because they deprive criminals of their liberty, which is apparently an effective way to punish them. I totally agree that prisons are very good at punishing the prisoners, but what they should be really good at is rehabilitating them. That is exactly why they need to be abolished. The whole system of punishment is not effective in reducing crime because punishing prisoners only causes them to resent the government and society, which later causes them to commit crimes again. Also, when ex-prisoners have a felony on their record, they have a very difficult time getting a job and reinstating themselves into society, so they are forced to resort to crime all over again. This proves that prisons do not reduce crime and they do not make society safer, since they, in actuality, create more crime for the future. For these reasons, my opponent's entire first point falls.